Hello, hi there. Welcome to Guiding Voice podcast series, The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help students and young professionals to shape their careers. Dear listeners, in every episode, we interact with industry experts and leaders to drive some insightful conversations that will help our audience learn great things. Also, we share an interesting trivia or fun fact around the IT world towards the end of every episode. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and I will be your solo host for today. And today we are going to discuss the concepts that are behind the success of cloud computing, that is virtual machines versus containers. And we are pleased to welcome Gourav to our show today. Gourav Swarnkar has over 10 years of experience in the IT industry, predominantly working on cloud and related technologies. He has been into various technical and operations roles like data center administration, cloud architect, and consultant. Along with cloud, he also worked on various tools like OpenStack and Kubernetes, etc. Gourav, welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series again. Let's get into our conversation.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Gaurav. So, can we talk briefly about your career journey and what you do in your day job?
Okay. Hello, friends. Thank you for listening us out. I have started my career as an administrator supporting private cloud deployments for my organization. I have started my career and I was very fortunate enough to work on cloud and related technologies since I was fresher. When I joined this organization, it was something like I just went ahead with programming languages, but eventually I land up in data center administration part, and eventually I was awarded with data center administration along with the cloud deployments. So understanding ground level technologies like virtualization or user centric prospects like a self-service portal and scaling, etc. It is really tricky to understand initially because at early phases we are not able to understand, and at that time we were evolving through a physical machine phases. What I understood after 2 or 3 years of experience is just translate customer problems to use case and map it around technologies. This is how the business work in IT industry. Everything will drill down towards business. Eventually, because of continuous technology advancement and complementing needs of the digitization, cloud become new normal. Everybody knows what cloud is as of today. So as per my experience, if you know that cloud and the crux of how it works and what problem it solves, eventually will help you to relate everything. So be it Amazon or be it Azure, you'll be able to understand everything. As far as my day-to-day jobs is concerned, I help my organization verticals from a solutioning viewpoints, and at the same time, I'm a part of delivery which delivers projects for my customers.
That's fantastic. You started your career as a programmer and now ended up managing the data centers and taking care of these containers and virtual machines. So probably it might be very, very interesting. Now let's talk something about the containers and how are they different from virtual machines?
Okay, so basically containers abstract operating system, and when it compared to virtual machine which abstract underlying host like virtualized hardware. So in a simple language, if we try to understand, it packages all the necessary stuff required for your application to run. Wherein when you talk about virtual machine emulates hardware along with the operating system. So it contains all the packages, libraries, binaries which is required for an operating system and application to run. So ultimately containers are something which is very, very lightweight compared to virtual machine, which makes them an obvious choice for a quick application deployments. And when it comes to virtual machines are a little bit bulky in terms of boot time, in terms of consumption of resources like CPU, memory, and storage. So that's why containers are very lightweight and they are very happening as of.
Cool, that's a very clear explanation. And why do we need containers now?
Actually, but to be very honest, containers are not new to our ecosystem as of now. First time
Mhm.
containers was coined in 1979 with the Unix version 7 and chroot version. So ultimately, mostly the Linux people will understand like chroot isolates the process and it restricts the application access for certain directories. Eventually, as the time passed, around year 2000, containers maturity grew and optimization was done with respect to CPU and memory as well. After that, in 2008, around introduction of LXCs, Linux-based containers, were the most stable version of containers, and it was a revolution at that time for the container technology. Being said that, in 2008, the cloud computing term was also coined, and at that time, it was super happening at that time, and various organizations was trying to mature their infrastructure as a service. So when cloud was at the verge of its maturity from an infrastructure perspective, addition to that, something called Docker, which came in 2013, and that helped industry to optimize the resources. So as we talked, like virtual machines are pretty heavy. Okay, when
Mhm.
it comes to containers are lightweight, so we are planned up in saving various resources. So as of now, like if you are dealing with 10 to 15 virtual machines, 100 virtual machines is perfectly okay. But when you talk about thousands of virtual machines, a single CPU and memory will cost you more. Okay, so
Mhm.
from that perspective, containers coined in 2013, and Docker is something which is very very famous as of now. Again, containers need some operating system to run. It can run on Linux and run on Windows as well, but definitely from a physical servers perspective, it is compatible with that. But most of the organizations is because of ease of access and ease of maintenance, cloud is something which is very much required for containers. So it complements the properties of cloud.
That's awesome. I think you have a strong foundation in those technologies, and all your explanation says it all. Now, I'm curious about this DevOps. In fact, how do these containers and DevOps go hand in hand in the current scenario?
So as we all know, DevOps is it's something which is a paramount way organization think about development, integration, and testing, which is QA perspective.
Mhm.
Container rightly fits in the DevOps strategy. Why? Because it helps in achieving things in a desired manner, where
Mhm.
which includes the quality, robustness, time, and eventually the resource utilization. Okay, here time and resources are the foremost thing which is a basic need for a DevOps. So container features like lightweight, platform agnostic, resource optimization helps aligning DevOps requirement, which helps organization to grow fast. So in the initial words, when we talk about physical servers, procurement will be a long cycle. Correct. Now when we
Yeah.
talk about virtual machines, procurement cycle from a month or two drilled down to or came down to 2 to 3 minutes, and still we are more greedy on that performance part. So containers uptime and provisioning drill down to seconds, actually 1 to 2 seconds. So as we can see, more and more industries are moving towards service based model from a containers perspective also. So containers are something which is a right fit, and as per the utilization of the resources and as per optimization, these are acting as a backbone now.
Mhm. Now I get it why the organizations are concentrating on faster time to market and the technology which is enabling or complementing it. Thanks for the insights. And now, if I were to adapt containers, what are certain major factors to consider?
Okay, so from a transition perspective, what I saw moving from physical machines to virtual machines, similar
Mhm.
things I experienced from virtual machines to containers. Although major shift or the technology transition are focusing more towards tool as well, where integration and skill sets are also very much required. So it is something only containers will not help you. Correct. So management of containers is a tricky part. Similar things we have experienced with virtual machines also. If there are 5 to 10 virtual machines or 20 virtual machines, this is perfectly fine to manage. But if there are thousands of virtual machines without a tool, without a proper operations of those virtual machines, it is very very hard for any organization or person to understand. So when the introduction of tool comes into picture, it will also ask for revamping your skill set. Correct, because every tool works in a different way. So majorly, as per my knowledge, understanding, experience. There are four major things where organization need to think through before switching to containers. Okay, first thing is implementation strategy. I've seen many customers which try to adopt containers but fail miserably because they don't have a strategy in place. Okay, second thing, aligning containers with tools and integration. Everybody knows organization gives a lot of money for enterprise grade tools, and those that particular money or those tools are very expensive to manage, correct, in terms of operation, capex and opex both. So aligning your containers with existing tools strategy is a must. Otherwise you will buy some tools, after 5 years that particular tool is gone because it's not complementing the containers, correct.
Yep.
This is the second important part. Third foremost thing is operation. You cannot just deploy and get away with the things. Operation is something which needs to be managed day in, day out, which is very much required. And if you are not aligning your tools and strategy, operation will be a nightmare stuff. And finally, everything drills down to skills. Okay, we know we want to utmost automate everything, anything and everything which comes in our way, but revamping the skills, person who is managing those operations, skill set from a operations perspective, people perspective is must to have. So skill is something which organization needs to follow for its employees to adopt container in a matured and better form.
Yep. So beautifully summed up. And now talking a little bit about Kubernetes, which is also called as K8s.
Yep.
So we have these kind of container orchestrators,
Yep.
right? So what are they all about?
Okay, so in market there are many orchestrators available from a containers perspective. Some of them are like Kubernetes or dockerswarm. So as I told you, we have operations, which is something acting as a backbone of the industry. Okay, and operation is not just about managing manually or managing automatically. It should be a perfect blend of tools along with the automation. So if we take an example, spinning a Docker container in a developer machine for developing or a testing perspective, looks very easy to manage. Okay, we can increase the containers count to 10 to 20 or 50. Still, a single person will be able to manage it. But when you talk about or think about organizations like Google, which is managing billions of containers today, it will be a nightmare to manage those containers without an orchestrator. So to be very simple, orchestrator is nothing but he's an intelligent guy who knows what needs to be done and how. So Docker is providing you the process isolation part and OS level virtualization, but an orchestrator like Kubernetes will help you to manage it efficiently, along with various tools integration to cater your security needs. Like you have to have authentication and authorization in place, correct? So directly catering it into the Docker, it's something which is very difficult, but managing it through Kubernetes, it will be very economical and feasible for you. So in simple words, consider you are having drum, flute, horn, violin as Dockers. Okay, randomly playing these instruments will not land up in music, correct? So you will hear a noise out of that, correct? We need to orchestrate it. It means orchestra is something where your instruments needs to be played in a particular order to produce a music, correct? So the same things happens with the orchestrator also. So he will line up all your metadata with respect to your resources, all your requirements, and after that give you what is required from a user perspective.
Awesome. I love that analogy of playing the various musical instruments, and in case if you don't have a proper orchestrator or the dictator, music will go haywire.
Yeah.
All right. So one last question. What are your tips for students and young professionals that are aspiring to make big in their careers?
Okay, so technology is not rocket science. It's human who starts it, it's human who understands it, and it's human who executes it. So major things lies in reskilling yourself with the latest technology trends. We can see now cloud is a new normal. Everybody talks about cloud, and cloud is acting as a horizontal to support various vertical functions. I see a lot of potential in containers. And if you see market share, clearly very big players like Red Hat, IBM, Amazon, Azure have aligned their services and strategy to offer customers on various container services. Okay.
Mhm.
Google
Yep.
was someone who had adopted containers very early and moved most of his services to containers. If you don't know, our Gmail service is running on containers only. And also, I have read a blog which was released in 2014. It claims that Google runs approximately 2 billion containers per week. You can see the mass. Okay, so that was 2014. We cannot imagine the current count, and that is the power of containers. Okay, so only the way out for us to thrive in this competitive world is to regularly update ourselves with the latest technology trends. With the potential I can see in the containers and which is complemented by the cloud, it is a deadly combination and it is
Mhm.
already disrupting the industry. So go for it. You will love this, how it works, and when you're able to understand it, it will run in your blood for sure.
Awesome. Hey, Gaurav, I have been asking you a lot of questions, so probably I'll pass the buck to you. Do you
Okay.
have any question to me?
Nothing, but I just wanted to appreciate you. This is something, Naveen, which is a amazing initiative. At least I was able to, share my thoughts so that it can help anyone. And if one person around the world, if he will be inspired by my observation on containers or by my experience, I will be really very grateful. So, Naveen, you are the medium where you're helping people out, and I think this is something which is fantastic. This is something what I'm sharing for the first time, to be very very honest. I feel so good to help people or to help broader audience, so I really appreciate the effort, Naveen.
Lovely. I like that statement wherein if at least one person can get benefit out of it, you are satisfied.
You cannot ask for more, so it's up to the people. And if one person is he's inspired by me or the containers, and he adopt the containers and he knows because of me, I will be fortunate enough, because I'll try to help shaping his career at least, because I know the potential.
Absolutely. And in fact, it resonates with our mission as well.
Yep.
It's not about how many people you are going to influence. As long as you are able to influence even a single person,
Yeah.
our purpose is done.
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us today, Gaurav. And it was indeed a wonderful conversation on virtual machines versus containers. Appreciate your time and all the wonderful insights that you have shared with our audience today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine.
All right. Sure. So, dear listeners, to know more about our speaker and the content, visit or follow us on social media. We are available on LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, Pinterest, and also on YouTube. Just search for The Guiding Voice and then follow, like, subscribe to us, and also share within your network. Also, feel free to email us, and our email address is theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. Also, we can be reached out on WhatsApp through our India number 9494587187. I repeat the number, it is India number 9494587187, and we'll be happy to collaborate with you. Alright? So, it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. And today's trivia is about ISP, which stands for Internet Service Providers. And here is a question for you all. Do you know which company launched or provided the ISP services for the first time? Okay, I know you might be thinking. Alright, let me reveal the answer. The first ever Internet Service Provider was a company named CompuServe. Interesting, isn't it? Thank you for listening. There is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful time. Take care. Be safe. Until next time, bye bye.